Hey everyone, today we are talking about keeping your eyes on the prize and not on your neighbor. A while ago, I saw this amazing picture of Michael Phelps. He was in the Olympics doing what he does best, swimming super fast. And they caught a snapshot of him swimming for the finish, his eyes fixed on the prize, and the person next to him that didn't win gold was more focused on how Michael Phelps was doing. And I thought that was so fitting for us in our lives, because so often we get caught in the trap of comparisons and we judge ourselves based on whether someone else is winning and whether we can beat them or not. And really, you need to have your eyes fixed on the prize for yourself, not on someone else's prize. And just because they are winning does not mean that you can't win as well. 2 Corinthians 10:12 in the Bible talks about comparisons and how people who compare themselves among themselves and measure themselves against each other, how they're not wise. But it's so easy to fall into that trap, and that is definitely something that we struggle with day to day. But we can live in contentment. We can practice contentment in our lives. I'm going to read a passage from Love Your Life, Not Theirs, which is a book by Rachel Cruz, which I've started reading. I'm not finished it yet, but I highly recommend it. It says, "The cure begins within. I'm afraid it's a time for a little tough love. Are you ready? Here it is. Comparing ourselves to others is essentially a coping mechanism for our own insecurities. We believe we don't measure up, so we project our insecurities onto others. We're insecure about how we look, how our kids are dressed, how our houses are decorated, and so on. It's those securities, our own internal struggles, that are keeping us from living the kind of life that we love. We can't blame social media. We can't blame the Joneses. They're just doing what we are. They're trying to figure out how to love their lives. Once you take your focus off them and put it on your own life, you can start to turn things around in your life and your money." Paul the Apostle was an amazing person. And he talked about how I've learned whatever state I'm in, therewith to be content. It's difficult in today's culture that is so fast-paced to be comfortable and to be satisfied with where you are currently without becoming lethargic and not motivated. There is a fine balance between striving for more and being discontented. You can strive for more and still be happy where you are right now. Part of that perspective is to know that life doesn't begin and end with money. There are some things that money buys, and there are some things that it doesn't buy. Zig Ziglar, the great motivator, he said, "Money will buy you a bed, but it will not buy you a good night's sleep. It will buy you a house, but not a home. It can buy you a companion, but not a friend." So it's important that we have that perspective, that we're able to recognize that yes, money is an essential part of life, but it's not the be-all and end-all. There are some things that money can't buy. And sometimes when we don't have money and we focus on the things that we have and can be so grateful for that aren't bought by money, that can help us to be contented. Rachel Cruz outlines 5 things that we can do to practice contentment in our lives. So first of all, to change our perspective. When you see people's lives on social media, they're not showing you every detail of their lives. They're curating a perspective for you where everything looks beautiful and looks nice. And yes, there's some reality there, but they're filtering it and making it look just how they want it to be. like everything's ideal. And it's like their highlight reel, or it's like a montage in a movie where they just take highlights and show that to you. Well, you know that day in and day out there are highlights in your life, but there are definitely many difficulties and hard times in between those, and people just usually don't show those things on social media. Number 2 is to cheer one another on. I love being part of a group of friends and family that are largely cheering us on our goal to become debt-free. And not only is it nice to be cheered on, but it's also nice to encourage other people who might just be starting to get a budget together, or might just be in the beginning stages, or people who are further on than us, our friends that are looking to put a huge down payment on a house and possibly even buy a house for cash. I mean, I love to cheer them on because someday I want to be where they are. So that's another great thing that we can do. Stop looking at your parents. I forget who the author is, but someone says, we spend the first 5 years of our married life trying to achieve what our parents took 30 years to build. And it's so true that people will just begin starting life independent on their own, and they'll want to move into a house in the same neighborhood as their parents and drive a similar car and all these things, external things, that if you don't take your time and do it properly, you're just getting in debt up to your eyeballs in order to maintain this facade of having your life together. So be patient and methodical and intentional. Redefine the term, I deserve it. So many people will call into the Dave Ramsey show and they talk about, I really need this new truck because I work hard, or we really need to take this vacation because it's just too hard to be gazelle intense. Well, entitlement can be a dangerous attitude that can take you so far off track and will really handicap your ability to become financially free. And number 5 tip that she gives is own your stuff. 2 sub points that can go with that is, if you own your stuff, that means you paid for it. You're not putting it on a credit card and paying it off later. And also it means that your stuff doesn't own you. So many people measure themselves by how much stuff they can accumulate, and then they turn around and are dumping carloads of stuff that just doesn't pique their interest anymore, and they're dumping it off at Value Village. I'd rather have a little less stuff and be a little less focused on trying to maintain a facade of having it all together. I mean, it's all about being authentic. That is where we can dive deep and really have a true impact on the world around us. So thank you guys. Go and be intentional. God bless.
Why does it take so long for me to know who I want to be? Yeah. Am I missing something here? I've been in